Hello, everyone. My name is B Lawless. I am the product marketing manager at TinyMCE. I am joined by wait, it's reversed. That guy. Whoa,
This,
there we go. Anyway, Fred, DevRel manager for Tiny.
hello, everyone. Always happy to be here. Always happy to do a webinar with my friend B. Hopefully, we have some good stuff for you today. So,
Yeah, I mean, we have fun. Hopefully it's informational and fun at the same time.
I would say that. And like, we have fun, but hopefully, the people listening to us also have fun while we do those kind of things. That's kind of like the goal, but I assume it's the case.
It's debatable sometimes, but we'll do our best. So today we are talking about the top 5 ways to make your life easier when you're developing with TinyMCE. These are very effective and also, I would say, somewhat simple tips and tricks you can use when you're setting up Tiny in your application, whether that's, a learning management system, management, simple website content that you're doing. We are going to, let me get my agenda pulled up here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take us through, do what?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, you said, like, they're like simple tricks, but they're still tricks that, like, as you said, like, they're important. I wish as a developer that those are the things that I know when I start to use a product. So hopefully that's going to be useful for you. There's so many things we can talk about when it comes to helping developers being successful with TinyMCE, but like we decided to go through the things that maybe we talk a little less when we do those webinars and videos, but they're still like fundamental and super important for you as developers to be successful, or for your team to be successful with TinyMCE.
Yeah, so we kind of call this maybe fundamentals, required basics.
Yeah, I think so.
Those could have been great titles that we didn't use. So first of all, for those of you watching who maybe haven't tried out Tiny yet, but you were on the email, you wanted to know, hey, what's going on? So TinyMCE is a JavaScript component rich text editor. Little box that you see on all sorts of websites where you can format your text, bold, italicize, simple features like that, all the way up to more complex workflow management things like suggested edits where you're collaborating on documents or content as a team, revision history. We have some AI functionality in there. We're going to have some next level AI functionality coming out in April that we'll talk about toward the end. Basically, you just drop that in. You don't have to worry about the editor. And then you go on and you build your amazing application around that. And we'll take care of all of the text for you. So now that we've established that, let's go into our first tip. And let me also try to remember how to manage a webinar. There we go. So the first one is TinyMCE docs and the TinyDocs AI documentation. Not necessarily groundbreaking, although we're very proud of ours. We have some of the most, I would say our editor is one of the most well documented ones in the industry. We've been at this for a while and definitely understand what people need to get started. So we've got everything from, a quick getting started guide, installation, different types of how-tos. I want to learn the basics. I want to figure out how I'm going to deploy this on a cloud setup. Tons of examples. I did want to come down to, yes, there's so much here that there we go. Fred's gonna go into a few more details on this in a second, but under the quick start guide and supported integrations, we support a lot of different frameworks. So we've got very detailed instructions on that. And then of course, when you're wanting to know what do our features do or how do I set those up, we've got examples for everything from what it's going to look like in your browser to what should my HTML and my JavaScript look like. I want to go play with it on CodePen, and not just the basic setup, but then if there are any more higher level options.
Yeah. If there's
Yes, you know what? You should get a full night's sleep, Fred, before you do a webinar. That's my lesson.
I agree. Usually it helps, but yeah, if there's comments that or function that you want to override, it's there for you. You have also the list of like all the properties that you can use because some
Proper.
plugins are just you had a word in the toolbar in the plugin and you're good to go. Some other you need to do a little more configuration. Let's say collaboration plugins ask you to do a little more because they're a little more complex plugin. But also even simpler plugin to use, you still have like for most of them different options. Just wanted to add before I give you the mic again, B. But funny enough, developer documentation is one of my pet peeves. As a developer advocate, depending on the company you work for, sometimes you own developer documentation. And at TinyMCE, I'm sad and lucky at the same time because I do not own the docs. The engineers are managing the docs, so they're doing an amazing job, which I'm also happy. That removes some things on my plate, but I like to, be responsible for the docs because I always say that you can have the best product out there. If you're developer, let's say, if your documentation is not good, like you won't be successful. So having great documentation is good. Funny enough, in about a week, I'm going to do a talk on creating great developer documentation at Write the Docs Amsterdam meetups there. And I'm happy to say that like it's a talks I give before based on the documentation that I own. And I'm happy to say that like I can basically reuse that, just changing the screenshot to use the TinyMCE doc because they go through all the best practice I have in mind when I talk about like creating great developer documentation. And we thought it was important to talk about that today because like every developers who start to use TinyMCE know that we have some docs. But like, do you really take the time to go into it, see everything that is there, and just like understand the importance for you to have the docs to be successful? And there's something else about the docs that you will demo right after. But anyway,
There
I'm
is.
still blabbering, giving you back the mic.
Well, and documentation, it's also near and dear to my heart. I still consider myself a technical writer, but same as you. My job for years was basically producing this type of content. Outside of the actual features, I did want to point out we also have things you might not think of sometimes. We have an accessibility guide. So how to get in there and make sure that when you're configuring the editor that you're staying accessible or staying compliant with accessibility standards, security. So different types of, again, we're very secure and we're very accessible. But when you are putting it into your app, there may be settings that you want to tweak. We've got those types of things there. Now, there's a lot here. Maybe you've kind of combed through it and you didn't see your exact thing that you were looking for. We have added, no surprise, because I think everyone is stuffing AI into everything they possibly can right now. But we have an AI on top of our doc site powered by a platform called Kappa. So our Tiny Docs AI, with this, I think we all at this point know how to use an AI, but you just ask it what you're looking for. So how do I configure the comments plugin to work in an Angular installation? It's going to think for a second. And we don't have this specific thing like on a page in the docs either. We have how to set the editor up in Angular. We have how to set up comment. And after it thinks for a little bit, it takes that information and puts it together for you with code samples. Some of these are from the docs, and some of these are things that it has extrapolated a little bit. But you see, you've got a very detailed. Actually, have two different modes. There's an embedded mode where the comments are stored inside the code, and then we have a callback mode where you're going to be pulling that from a database. So it gives you both options. And of course, from here we could just put in as many follow-up questions as we wanted until we had the answer we needed.
I like that.
So go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, I like that. It's a great mix between if you know exactly what you're looking for, like maybe because you're coding for a while like me, like you have the habit to go directly to the doc because you know what you're looking for. You may just not remember how to do it. So you have access to it. We're not getting rid of the docs. It's staying there. But like if you're not sure where is it, because as B was showing, like we have great documentation, extensive documentation, because Tiny can do a lot of things. There's a lot of things you can do with Tiny. So it may feel overwhelming. So if you don't know what you're looking for, if you don't know where to look for that information, if you don't find what you're looking for in the docs, there's a two-step though. If you don't find what you're looking for in the docs, first ask AI, use Kapa AI, ask your question. Hopefully you're going to get an answer. But if you were like, hey, I checked the doc, it's not there, it was supposed to be there, or you ask Kapa AI and Kapa AI is not able to give you an answer, you talk to this guy, you ping me, you let me know, and you say, Fred, I think there's something missing in the docs. And maybe you're right. Maybe I'm going to help you to find it if it's not missing. But if you're right, that is the kind of feedback that I want to have, because I can go back to the product team and say, like, hey, I think we're missing a part of the doc, or I think there's something wrong in the doc, and we need to fix that. So if you can take a couple of seconds to do that, if that happens, would be wonderful for me, would be wonderful for future users of TinyMCE, so they can have like even better docs than what we have right now.
And we'll say this a few different times through the webinar. Fred, where can they ping you? How would
Everywhere.
one ping you?
Everywhere. I would say, funny enough, I think right now the place where I spend the most time, which I never thought I would say that, is LinkedIn. I spend way more time on LinkedIn
Yep.
right now. I used to spend way too much time on Twitter because, yes, I'm not going to call it X. I still call it Twitter. Now I spend a little less of time, but I'm still there. You can also reach me by email, Frédéric.Harper@cloud, or you go to my website, fred.dev. You see me in person at events. Anyway, there is like so many ways to reach out to me. So just look for, Fred TinyMCE, probably if you Google that, or I'm so old, or if you use a LLM to search my information, maybe you're probably going to be able to find ways to reach out to me. But this is one thing though I want to do, not for ego reasons, but like have maybe not my face, because my face is already out there a lot on social media, but at least on the docs or somewhere, maybe on the developer center, like having a way to like, hey, want to talk to a human from the DevRel team, talk to Fred. This is how we can reach out to Fred. So that's going to make those discussion maybe a little bit easier.
Yeah. So I think a better question, what I learned was, where can I avoid seeing Fred? It's probably the easier thing to do.
That's a good question.
But yeah, we'll be showing the developer center a little bit later. I think that's a great suggestion. We'll get some sort of a ring Fred button on there. For now, however, we're going to transition to our next topic. And give me a second. Let me get your screen share. All right. Take it away, Fred.
Awesome. So hopefully everything's good right now, because I think for whatever reasons, Zoodle showing me in slow motion. I think it's good. I have a new webcam. It works with any other application, but right now I feel like I'm a little bit in slow motion, but everything hopefully should be good. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is that a little bit what shown before. Like we are first, TinyMCE. It's a couple of line of JavaScript that you can add in your application. So with any programming languages where you can add JavaScript, you're going to be able to run TinyMCE, to implement TinyMCE within your application. With that said, though, we have easier way to do it with some supported integrations that we have. Like we have React, Angular, Vue, Blazor, Svelte, Web Component, jQuery. We also have some backend integration with Django, Laravel, Ruby on Rails, and even other integrations with Bootstrap. And there's a way for you to use the cloud version. There's also a way for you to self-host. Usually the easiest way, if you don't need to self-host for reasons like security reasons or whatever, where you just need to hone everything on your platform, or you use like a Airgap system or something. Most of the time it's just easier to use the Tiny Cloud. With that said, though, as I said, we have some, components or wrappers for different languages, and it really makes your life easier to get started with TinyMCE. So if you want to try it, also if you want to implement it within your application, that's the way to go. So what I want to demo right now, do not worry, I won't demo them all. I will go with React because, a lot of people use React. I like React too. And I'm going to use even the documentation, not because I'm lazy, just to show you how the documentation is also structured. So one of the things that I really love that he had in the examples that he's shown is that you have the information, but you also have like a running TinyMCE instance that demo what you're trying to achieve. But now we have a step-by-step like tutorials about, okay, if I want to use Tiny Cloud, so using your CDN to load TinyMCE within a React application, how can I do that? And we go from even starting like a Hello World application to add TinyMCE. So I'm going to follow the steps here. And the first one is like, let's use Vite. And I don't know if I said probably in English, because it's also a French word, so I always call it Vite. Maybe it's Vite, you say in English, but I'm still going to say Vite. So bear with me on that one. And I'm going to go in the command line here, and I'm basically going to create a default React application. So here, if I go and I follow, actually, let me go back to the documentation. I'm going to follow step by step here. So I'm going to cd in my folder. If I list it, I already have like a really basic Hello World application with React. So what I want to do first is to install our component here. So I'm going to install npm install. You can also use yarn if you want, or npm, or probably bun. And you want to install the tiny React here. And the next step, I want to have the editor within my application. So I'm going to open Visual Studio Code here. I won't use Vim this time. I know people prefer something a little more visual, and I love Visual Studio Code too. So I go in the source here, and I'm going to go in the app.jsx. And, this is the basic application. So if I just run it, I do npm dev, we can see what it looks like. It looks like that. Beautiful icon, but, that's a hello world. What I want to do right now is to replace that to have the editor in my code. So lazy me, I'm going to go to step 3 of our tutorials in the docs. And I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back here in Visual Studio, and I'm going to paste it. One of the other thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to explain a little bit the code after. So I'm going to have my key and yes, my key is now visible in the webinar, but we have like some security configuration behind it that I can use it only within the domain that I put within my portal. So you won't be able to use my key, but it doesn't matter that much. You can also, we have free trial. I think we can talk a little more about that after for those of you that are interested. But what I've done here is I had an editor that is a component from TinyMCE React. And this is the basic configuration of my editor. So I can, have initial values, which mean like the text that's going to be loaded by default in TinyMCE, which you don't need to do, but it's useful if you save the content you created with TinyMCE and you want to reload it for users to be able to modify it. The height, here I removed the menu bar. It's just default example. And I put a bunch of like default plugins just to give a little more features to my users, and also define the toolbar. And I put some like styles, so some CSS that are specific to TinyMCE. So here I just modify the app.jsx, and I already run my application. So if I go back here, I refresh, and that should be good. The only reason I had to refresh is because I updated my API key for reasons I did not reload automatically. But now I have TinyMCE working within a React application. So as you've seen, it was quite easy. I didn't have to, usually if I just do a basic HTML JavaScript application, I need to load with a script tag and load the TinyMCE, and also need to define the text area and all those things. Where here I use the editor that is a component from TinyMCE React, and you have like all the configuration of TinyMCE. And what I've done is just go through here to that tutorial. And we have that tutorial for all languages. So if you're not sure how to get started, go there, read those tutorials, you're good to go. Obviously, if you already have an application, skip the, creating the hello world application example and just move toward like, how can I implement this, which in this case would be installing the React package and modifying the app.jsx. So that give me an application. Again, here it is TinyMCE. So I can do whatever I want here with the plugins that I had, but also the configuration that I put in the toolbar. So I can remove the formatting here. I can, do everything I need to do with what's available for me right now. Obviously, this is a limited amount of what is available on TinyMCE. You can add a lot more plugins. You can add a lot more configuration to TinyMCE. Just as an example, we didn't show you before, but if you go on the plugin page here, you're going to have a list of like 50 plus plugins, some that are, free plugins, some that are premium plugins. And there is so many more things that you can do with TinyMCE than, let's say, just putting bold and italic formatting within your rich text creation.
It's worth noting again, when you were going in there and setting up the app in the plugins line, that's all it takes to set up most of those. You put it in there and refresh your browser, and you're done. Our more advanced features do have advanced, configuration required, but you can really try all of these. Fred, I think, mentioned we have a 14-day free trial for our cloud hosted service, and every single feature is available during that time. So you can play around, see what works for you, and see what fits your business case. There you go. Oh, Fred, you're muted, I think.
Yeah, technology is hard.
There you go.
I muted myself when I was coughing, which I'm going to do again. So yeah, so as we said, most plugins, they're really easy. It's just a question of adding the name of the plugin or the keyword for the plugin in the plugin list. And most of the time also adding it in the toolbar. Usually the one that are quote unquote a little more complicated is usually around collaboration because you need to manage more data. Let's say you want to have like the comments feature. It means that you need to manage like who's going to be able to comment, who are the users going to comment on it, and where are you going to save, like how are you going to retrieve that comments that people left in your content. So, but we tried to do as much work as it was possible for you to be able to manage that. So we also have like function that you just need to override to be able to like manage that information. So the workflow is already created for you. The other things that I wanted to demo with TinyMCE is that right now, as I said, I have like a really, default. I was going to say basic because there's so many more features you can add, but like it's kind of like a default WYSIWYG or rich text editor you have with TinyMCE right now, that configuration. But there's also, as developers, there are plugins that are more interesting to me, or that relates more to what I do as a developer. So there's a lot of plugins that will help the end users to create rich text content, but there are plugins that will help me as a developer to do what I have to do. The first one I want to demo is the enhanced code editor. So right now, if I look at that and I click, I don't even have the code here. So let me have the code plugin. So actually the code plugin was loaded, but it was not in a toolbar. So maybe we need to update the documentation so it shows. So if I refresh the page here, I'm going to have that little code here, and I can see what should be the output of TinyMCE. So if I try to, as a developer, at some point, my users will create content. And at the end of the day, it's not just to stay in the browser. Like you need to retrieve that content and save it somewhere in a database or use it to send an email. And as a developer, it's nice because like I can work with the WYSIWYG, but sometime maybe there's some more magics that I want to do in the code. So there is that like free plugin that is called Code, but there's also the advanced code editor that you can also activate within TinyMCE. And to do that, that's going to be one of the example of the part of like what you need to do when it comes to adding a plugin. So this one is just a little bit tricky. So I need to add ADV code, which is the short code or the property name or the name of the plugin that I need to add in the list. I need to remove the code one here. And at the toolbar, I'm keeping the code to load that plugin. So if I refresh it, it looks like nothing changed. But if I did it right, which we'll see in a minute, I did it right. I have that more advanced, I wouldn't call this an IDE. It's not a complete IDE, but like it's a place for me to, manage the code. And one of the things I was missing so much, and I don't know if you're like me, I know maybe it's a fade, but it's a fade that's been there for like 10 years. So I want my dark mode. So I have that opportunity to do that. I can format code, I have a copy button, have more features that make sense for me as a developer when I want to play in the code. Obviously, I could like copy and paste that code and go in my editor and do the modification, but do you really want to do that? You want to stay in TinyMCE because this is where you're writing your content. This is where you're creating your content. So that plugin give you that opportunity. So this is one of the plugin that, can be useful for the end users if they know a little bit what they're doing with HTML, but it's really more useful for developers using TinyMCE as a tool. The second one is the full page HTML plugin. So this one is interesting because, as I said, if you look at the output of this one, I have HTML. So I basically have everything that is inside Tiny. And this is what I need most of the time. Even if I go here and I log editor content, I go in my console, it's just show what is the output that I can get from, TinyMCE content. And as I said, this is great for most of cases, but I'm thinking specifically about a case where, let's say, you would implement TinyMCE within a page of your application, or you're basically creating an application that will help people to send email. In that case, you probably want to have the full HTML code, like not just like the content from TinyMCE. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go back in my code. Hopefully the code is big enough. If not, I can zoom it. You let me know if it's not the case, but I'm going to call it the full page HTML. I'm also going to add it
You know,
here.
maybe can you zoom it a little bit? It's legible, but it's tiny. Ha
Is
ha
it bigger
ha.
now?
Yeah, that's good.
Wonderful. So I added page HTML, which is the plugin name, but also the toolbar name. And if I go back here and I refresh, I add that new icon here. That new icon does one thing. It helps me to add title, keywords, description, robots, author, encoding, like metadata that I would add to my HTML page if I was coding it myself. So that could be useful if you need to do that. That's also an interface that let's say people that are less technical being able to add that information there. But also, if I go back into code, oh, there's something different now. Now I see the doc type, I see the HTML tag, the head, my body, HTML. So if I need to load more resources, if I need to do stuff in the head, if I need to have metadata, because at the end, what I want to do is to grab the content from TinyMCE and let's say send an email, I will be able to do that because I don't want to just grab what was inside the editor and having to reconstruct the HTML. Well, it's already there for me. So what I do here, I have that information. Same thing if I try to get the output. Now I have the full HTML output from TinyMCE. So this one, again, I think it's mostly useful for developers. So that's the second plugin that I wanted to talk about. I'm excited about a lot more plugins, but they're usually targeted to but because this show is about developers, I want to show you one last plugin that I think is interesting. And I'm going to count you on the team of like, if you want to send emails, I think it's one of plugin that will make sense for you, which is the inline CSS plugin. So what I'm going to do for the inline CSS plugin, I'm going to add inline CSS here, and I don't have to add anything in the toolbar because that's not an option for the users. What does the inline CSS tell me? And actually, you know what? Let me show you the docs. So we're going to find inline CSS here, and I have the information. I have a working example here, but basically, when you want to, as an example, send an email, you cannot just link to a CSS file. Like everything needs to be like we were doing HTML many years ago, everything in one file, everything in one place. So you need to have inline CSS. As much as I hate that as a developer, this is the way to go to have a HTML formatted email. And to be able to do that, there is two things. So I need to have inline CSS. So that plugin will let me give me the opportunity to do that. So as an example, if I go back in my code here, and I'm heading, I don't know, here there's body, but I'm going to have here, something called blue, color blue. And if I go back in my content here, my example, I'm going to go in the code and I'm going to say this is going to be the class blue. And it's not working because what did I do wrong? Yeah, I think I'm missing here.
I think it's because you're doing a live demo, and
Yeah,
nothing ever goes.
That's always actually there's something here. Yeah, exactly. There's issues here how I had it my plugin, so that could help it.
There you go.
Of course, I may still have an issue. Blue, not blur in French. I speak French, and
Blue,
it's not
not bleu.
working. Why am I doing? There's something I'm doing wrong here. Yeah, should be good. Just looking at my code if I did something stupid, which I think I did. Blue, color blue, should be good. Anyway, that will work without that. So the benefit of it is that that'll work. So one other thing I need to do. So now if I export my content with inline CSS, I'm going to go here and I'm still going to have like my content without having the inline, the one that is working here. My blue was not working. I'm pretty sure it's really basic. That's going to haunt me for the rest of the webinar because it's probably a stupid mistake. But with that said, there is the body here that I want to have when I'm going to send my email. So how I'm retrieving my content here is I use the editor ref.current get context. Here, I'm going to do just a small change. So I'm going to still get the current editor, but I'm going to call plugins, and I'm going to call the inline CSS plugin, and I'm going to call get content on the inline CSS, because now what I want is not the like quote unquote pure content, my HTML content. It's the content that the inline CSS plugin generated for me. So if I refresh that, and now we're going to cross our finger, and I go here, I don't have to modify anything. I return, okay, I should probably do better code. I return a promise, but here you can see that my HTML content now have inline CSS. Maybe it's too small. So I have my, font family, Helvetica, and everything. So now I can take that HTML content and I can use that to send my email with inline CSS. So again, not a plugin that is useful for the end user. It's useful for you as a developer to be able to use inline CSS within the TinyMCE content to send the email with the inline CSS as an example, if you want to use that plugin. So those are kind of like the 3 plugins that I wanted to demo today. One of the last thing that I wanted to demo before we go back to be talking about other awesome stuff is a way for you to, if you need to self-host and you need to use premium plugins. So in my case, I use those premium plugins. So the last one that I use, inline CSS, full page HTML, advanced code editor, they are premium plugins. So they're available in the free trial. But at the same time, at some point, if you continue to use TinyMCE, you need to move to a paid tier if you want to continue to use them. And in most cases, right now, I didn't have to modify anything because I'm using the React component that is using the Tiny Cloud that let me have access to all the plugins. At some point, it will just depend on my API key. So right now, with my API key, I have access to the premium plugins within my account because, I'm a quote unquote paid user of TinyMCE. So here, one of the things that I may want to do is to be able to self-host. Again, maybe some security, if you have some security regulation that you need to take care of. Maybe it just make more sense for you. You're more confident about doing that. Maybe you're in an air gap situation. Anyway, you may not want to, for reasons, as much as TinyCloud is working very well, you may not want to load TinyMCE from a CDN. So there's a couple of things you're going to need to do. First, I need to, if I go within my application here, my folder where I have my app, I'm going to need to install TinyMCE. And now it seems like it may be confusing, actually, TinyMCE, because what I installed before was the React component. And the React component was doing the hard job for me to be able to just use, the editor component instead of having to build everything manually. It was also loading TinyMCE from the CDN. But now I want to load those things locally. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to install, which is like the default, TinyMCE. If I go here and I look to my node model, and I list here. Now I'm going to have TinyMCE. Let me make it a little bit better. If I go and say TinyMCE, I'll list that again. Now, I have TinyMCE here, TinyMCE min here, minimized version, which is basically TinyMCE. Those are the things that I was loading from the, so now if I go back here, the second thing, and we introduced that in version 8.3.0, is also a way for you to install premium, TinyMCE Premium, so the premium plugins if you want to self-host with npm. This one's going to be npm install TinyMCE Premium. This will install only the premiums within your application. And why it is a big thing? Because, I'm a developer. I love to be able to just install my package. And prior to that, as a React developer, the way for me to do that is that I had to go on TinyCloud. I had to download a zip file. I had to unzip that on my project, put it in the right place. While now you have all the power of like package management with npm or any other tools you want for also the premium plugin. So this is something that like a little thing, but for me, it's super exciting because again, just with npm right now, it helps me to manage things better, to upgrade easily if I want to. It helps me to like put this on a CI/CD pipeline, so I'm being sure like I'm not depending on having access to the Tiny portal. Everything is going to be installed with npm. So again,
Fred,
element show maybe. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Can you go back to that? It didn't. I was about to say.
What were you about to say?
There we go. It's the npm install premium. It was below the line of your screen for a while, so I wanted to make sure we had that on there. Yep, we're good now. Thanks. And did you say if you're self-hosting premium features, you would need a license key? I don't remember. You're muted still, Fred.
I'm muted again.
There you go.
That's going to be one of those webinars, my CSS
Mm-hmm.
not working, I'm muted. So yeah, no, I just make it a little bit bigger. So hopefully this is going to be good. I didn't talk about licensing yet. So if you let me finish what I want to talk about, I'm going to talk about licensing.
Oh, go for it.
So a couple of things I need to do. But first one, I just want to show you, if I go now in node module, I'm like scrolling down, scrolling down, scrolling down. Now I have TinyMCE Premium here, which is my premium plugins that are installed locally in my node module folder. So I was able to install Tiny Premium, but now I'm still using the cloud. So there's two things that I probably want to do with that. So the first one is going to be able to, if I go here, I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to call it bundle editor .jsx. And now I'm going to be lazy because there's like way too much code. I don't want to type all that. But here, what I'm doing is that I'm packaging TinyMCE. I'm bundling TinyMCE within my application. So for you, there is two ways to do that. You could do that, do npm install. And if you don't want TinyMCE to be bundled within your application, you can, do npm install and have, I don't know, I think it's vidcopy plugin that will copy the content of node module within your public folder or whatever you need to put it for it to be accessible. I think a better way to do that is to bundle the application. So here I'm still loading the editor. I'm importing TinyMCE, and this is where it seems like it's more complicated, but I think it's a better practice to do that. For this, really follow the documentation. So let me show you, the about this. Really, you should follow the documentation, at least for the first time, because there is a lot of import statements to have, because there's plugins that you're using in your code. And if you don't have those import statements, you will have error in the console, or you won't be able to use the plugin. There's also things that you may not have thought about, the DOM model and the theme and the toolbar icon. So what I want to do is to import all those things. I'm importing all the plugins that I use. Some also of the stuff that, some of the plugins are lazy loading at a runtime, because if I don't have them, I will have an issue. And the last thing, though, is this part where I had that specifically for premium plugin. So the rest was to be able to bundle TinyMCE within my application for the self-hosting part. But now that I want to use premium plugin, I use those three plugins within my application. And there is that little one here that I need to use because it's a plugin that will validate my license key. And there's a lot of people out there that would say like, hey, Fred, I won't have this one, so I won't need to use license key to use Tiny. Sorry about that. Without that plugin, it will be like you're not having a license key. It means that you won't be able to self-host and have the TinyMCE premium plugins running within your application. So what I'm going to do here after that, I create my bundled editor. I'm going to change here. I'm going to load my my bundle editor. So if I go here, go to my code, I'm just going to be lazy here. Load my bundle editor. And there is two things that I need to modify. So again, I'm looking at the docs. So the other thing that I need to modify here is the API key. I will remove that because I'm not using the API key anymore. And in bundle editor, what I've done, I imported a key that I have on a .env file. So right now, if I refresh, actually I need to run it, but if I do npm run dev, it won't work. It will probably give me like an issue. Actually, it doesn't work at all because, again, the beauty of like live coding stuff, sometimes you have some issues. Oh yeah, my bad. I need to modify it. And now it should load, but I should have that error that say like, hey, there is no license key. So what I need to do, let me go back here. I'm going to take my env here and I'm going to move it in my TinyRack demo here, just so you don't see my license key, because this one is a little more tricky. And if I refresh here, now I have TinyMCE working locally. So I'm not loading TinyMCE from the Tiny Cloud anymore. So I'm self-hosting, which you could have done without the premium plugin, but I really want to show you how to use the npm premium plugin. So basically, the difference between self-hosting is that I remove my API key because now it's using a license key. I just because for making it cleaner and just for the sake of me to just easily copy and paste, I created a different file to load TinyMCE to bundle everything that I needed from TinyMCE within my code to be able to do that. And I switched my editor to use the bundle editor to be able to do that. And in my case, I load the open source, we call them open source or free plugins, and I load the premium plugin here. And the thing though is that if tomorrow I want to start to use the accessibility checker, I'm just going to use an import statement here, because if I go in my code, and again, I go in the node module, and there are so many package install, I go in Tiny Premium, and I have the A11Y checker. So accessibility checker here. I just need to load it there, and I'm going to be able to use it self-hosted. Again, it's not for everyone. Not everyone needs to be able to self-host TinyMCE. It's really if you need to do it because reasons, you are able to do that. With that said, though, by doing that, as I said, you need to have a license key. And in that case, to have a license key, you need to have a discussion with someone at TinyMCE, because it's not self-service like we do for API key. But again, in most cases, you may not need that. In most cases, you are able to use Tiny Cloud. It's straightforward. You can still npm install for the React component, so it makes your life easier if you're using React. But that's one way to self-host TinyMCE. And it's quite, I know it's shown a lot of code, and I had like a mistake or two even while I was demoing, but we fixed it. It's fine. It may seem like it's complicated, but it's really the way to go if you want to self-host your application. And again, everything is on the, so you have access to it, the step-by-step how to self-host. And the documentation focused on like the non-premium version of TinyMCE, but we also have documentation about the premium part of TinyMCE.
You did indeed cover license keys.
I did.
Good job.
It was coming, because that's an important part, and especially because in the code I need to modify the API key for the license.
And where else people can go for really good information is our developer center. For that, you go to tiny.cloud. This is our last little for you today. In the top nav, select developers, and the Dev Center is right there. We are growing this Dev Center constantly. We started it not too long ago. So we've got content for our most popular frameworks, obviously also just plain old JavaScript. When you come in here, you can pick the topic that interests you the most. Unlike the doc site, which is pretty utilitarian in terms of, this is how you do a thing, step 1, step 2, step 3. On the Dev Center, you're going to see things that are hopefully a little more inspirational. How to build an email messaging app with Tiny, and you come down here. You still have some steps and instructions, but it's a little more just fully featured. We have categories like developer insights, tutorials, links out to the doc site, and then we also have this content categorized by use case. So, if you want to build an LMS with Tiny, we have a tutorial on how to do that in Vue. We have a lot of great content with our LMS partners, Moodle. So really, any type of robust content you want to find, we have it here. We're adding new content all the time. So when you reach out to your good friend Fred on all of the socials, if there's a piece of content you'd like to see, we're going to be doing a lot more video soon as well. So a video tutorial on a thing, let Fred know. We'll get that in the queue. And then we're also adding content for our other frameworks as quickly as we can. With that said, we are going to have an addition, or not an addition to this, but at least we'll have a link to something that I think we're all pretty excited about. Fred, to wrap up, would you like to talk about the developer community that we'll have before long?
I would like that. And before I do that, just for, I guess, my own ego, let me go back to the screen for a second. And I'm not sure what changed, because that's the exact same code, but now I have the P class blue and it's working. So,
that is, that is for your ego, and I support it. Good job.
It is only for my ego, because I missed something so simple in my demo. But let me show you thing though. I'm still going to share my screen, and I have that beautiful thing. Maybe it's not the best way to share it. Let me go to the screen here. Let me go here. So it's going to be better. So let me start by saying that one of the things that, as a developer advocate, I think we're missing at TinyMCE is a developer community. I think we tried in some capacity in the past to create a developer community, And for reasons, now we want to try it again because for me, it's really important within my role. Part of my role is to give love to developers, and I do that at conferences and on social media, and there's ways to contact me. But what I really feel like it's powerful when you use a product, when you love a product, is to have a place where you feel like home. Like a developer community is the way to go from my point of view. So what I want to start, and that's going to be done by the end of Q1. So by the end of March, I promise you, I say it live, we're going to have a TinyMCE developer community. And that's going to be in Slack. So we did a choice for different reasons. We don't go with Discord and other tools. I wanted to use a tool that is familiar to people, tool that you use at work. And, Slack was the decision. So we're going to have a developer community there. It's going to be free to join. And the benefits of that community is a couple of things. So first, you're going to be able to keep in touch with what's happening at TinyMCE. And I know there's a lot more other ways to do that, like our LinkedIn page or Twitter account, or just going on our websites. You're able to know what's happening. So that's one reason. But from my point of view, the best reasons are two specific ones. First one, you have access to people. You're going to have access to me. You're going to have access to people from the TinyMCE team. Because, especially in an era where AI is everywhere, where like it's harder to talk to sometimes real people, and we have an amazing support team here, but it's also nice to be able to talk to developer advocate. It's also nice to be talk to the PMM about stuff, and you're going to be able to talk to people. Also, what I believe is going to be something powerful is a place where a developer can just chat about not even unrelated TinyMCE stuff, but also if you have TinyMCE questions, I'm going to be able to help you. If you have TinyMCE questions, maybe other users are going to be able to help you. So obviously, we're going to define a little more how it's worked between our premium support, but also the community support. So we're going to have some rules about that. But in the end, that's going to be a place for you as developers to feel like home. So we're going to announce that soon. But until we do that, I have a form out there. So I don't know,
Yeah, I've got it in the banner.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Because now it's going to be Inception if I go back to Zotto.
Yeah.
But there's a link, and you can just fill a form. It's just your name, your email. I just want for you to kind of like pre-register to the community. So once we launch it, if you missed it on social media, I'm going to send you a quick email and say, by the way, super excited. Communities out there, register, join it. And why it's important for you to do that and not just join later. And I don't know, it's important for me because I think it makes sense. But what I want to do, because I really want that community to be successful and I want people to not wait to join, is that the first 100 people who's going to join the community, I'm going to send you a t-shirt with that little guy here, or mascot that, by the way, recently we finally gave him a name. He's called
Dash. Did you just blank out on it?
I just blanked on the name. He's called Dash. No,
yes.
The thing though,
their name is Dash.
I need to explain. I was part of with B and Aisha at work. We were part of the people we're trying to get internally people to vote and everything. So now I had a list of 20 names in my mind because we just finished the contest and we just announced a new name. And I really blanked, but I'm just happy because we're at conferences. Everybody loved our ASCII mascot, but everybody was like, what's the name of the mascot? And I was like, he doesn't have a name, or she doesn't have a name. And now we decided that he has a name. So with that specific logo that our design team created, our mascot here, Dash, and everything around it, the banner behind is going to be the logo for the t-shirt. And those going to be unique t-shirt that only the first 100 people, plus maybe me, maybe B, going to have, those t-shirts as, just a gift. Welcome token, an appreciation for you to join the community right at the beginning. So that's going to be unique for the first 100 people who are going to join the community. So go on tinyurl.com/tinydev community. We're going to share that also on social media. Just put your email there. Again, I won't spam you, but once I launch the community, I'm going to send you an email right before we announce it to the rest of the people. And hopefully, if you're in the first 100 people to join, you're going to get that amazing t-shirt. And I do not wear the other t-shirt I have right now for Tiny. I should have, but they're a really comfortable t-shirt. I love the material, great quality. We're going to ship it. No matter where you live, we're going to ship you the t-shirts. And again, that's a unique design only for the first 100 people who's going to join the community. But again, t-shirt is just a bonus. I think the community is the real prize here. This is what's going to be amazing. But yeah, we like swags. We like free swags. And I thought it was a great incentive for people to join the community earlier.
Yeah, the real gift is the friends you make along the way, and but also we have cool swag.
I like that.
But
I like that.
I didn't. I stole that. I didn't make that up. What are you talking about? But thanks. So yeah, that is all of our tips and tricks for today. Thanks so much for joining us. As I said earlier, we are going to have a goal for the rest of the year to produce quite a bit of instructional, helpful video. We're going to be ramping up on that next month. So just keep an eye out on our YouTube channels, on our YouTube channel, on our other socials. And also keep an eye out in early August for the next version of our AI feature, which really just brings some incredibly powerful collaborative features, really giving you AI as a partner in your content creation. And we will be releasing more info on that before too long.
Yeah.
So with that, thanks for joining us. Fred, any last words?
Yeah, I was just going to say, funny enough, before we started the webinar, B and I were talking. It was like, we have like some kind of like 5 tips. Those are quick tips. Like we should do webinar. Probably is going to like last 20, 30 minutes. And
Yeah.
here we are at the 1 hour mark of our webinar because we both talks a lot. I guess this time it's probably my fault. I was the one who talked a little
Yeah.
more, but usually we're both pretty good. So hopefully that was useful for you. If something wasn't clear, if you have any issue trying to replicate what I've shown here in the webinar, if you have any issue with the documentation, just a reminder, please let me know. My job is not just to be the pretty face, also need to, try to fix things when we need to and bring the feedback to the product team. And it's real hard for me to do that without people's help. So always happy to connect with you too. And on that note, have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Appreciate it.